Okay, I realized that I took way too long to get anything posted. I've just been so busy, kind of, adjusting and getting my feet on the ground and all that. So I did finally go ahead and create a video. It's too long. It's only slightly edited. I make a lot of mistakes in it, where say the wrong thing or whatever. But it's just meant to be kind of an introduction to a channel. The channel. This is, I think, going to be more of a personal channel where I do put just more of the kind of like personal, raw, not as edited type of stuff, and then on I've got another channel that is intended to be a little bit more public, and I think that's probably where I'll put the more polished and edited videos and things like that. But this is really, just kind of intended as updates for friends and family. So, yeah, I love you all, and here's my first update.
Yo, 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 YouTube. What's up? Dobre Dan. It's your boy, Matty B, the Reverend Jabberwocky himself, balling it up in the Balkans. How's it going out there? Make sure you you hit that like. No, you like that. You hit what you. No, don't hit anything. Hit that like and smash that subscribe button. Yeah. you know, it's interesting and disappointing and yet somehow incredibly predictable that we create this amazing platform that enables folks to share themselves, to share their lives and what's unique about all of us. My first YouTube video that got lots of views was called the Jedi Toothbrush, and it was my kiddo who was pretending to be Obi-Wan with their electric screwdriver. And, that's the kind of shit that people loved on YouTube. And, now everybody sounds alike. Everybody has the same kind of formats, the same content. It's really too bad. Okay, so I'm finally posting a video tonight. Yes, I am here in Croatia. I'm in my little Airbnb studio. It is just a temporary place that I'm staying while I look for a more permanent apartment. I'm in Rijeka, which is kind of the more kind of north in Croatia, almost up to the Slovenian border, not far from the Italian border. In fact, at different times in history, this was Italy. This was part of the Venetian Empire for many years. Of course, previous to that, it was part of the Roman Empire. I don't know for sure if the Ottoman Empire quite reached up this high, but if not, it was right on the doorstep. It's a very exceptionally beautiful country. It is an exceptionally literate culture. One of the things that I have been delighted by is that literally every fucking block there is at least one bookstore, sometimes more than one. And they're all in business and they're all doing business. People read books here at a rate that I don't know if we've ever seen in America, frankly. So that is amazing and something I really look forward to being able to participate in when I get a grasp of the language. People are so fucking stylish here. I mean, it's impressive. They're so beautiful. Not everything is great, which of course was to be expected. What's interesting are the things where I expected to maybe have trouble with or not like, or that it turned out have not been an issue. And yet the things also that I expected to really be excited about and to really enjoy, or to access almost immediately, and some of those things have been um, incredibly disappointments. And yeah, so of course it's not a perfect country. Nowhere is. And there have been some very dark times here. That was the fascist regime in World War II, which were allies of the Nazis. Ustaji, sorry. Yeah, still getting to learn the language and how this all works. Although it's great for those of you who've studied a language before. They say like, oh, Slavic languages are so difficult, and I wouldn't know. Now, part of this is probably because I grew up with the blessing of having my great grandparents close to me when I was young. We spent a good amount of time visiting them, and subsequently later, after my great grandmother died, my great grandfather came and lived with my grandma, and I spent summers at my grandma's house. And so I grew up hearing them speak Croatian in the home. So I think I do have a little bit of like an ingrained ear for it. Some English speakers can't hear certain sounds that are used in the Croatian language that are not present in English. But for those of you who have tried to learn other languages, finding that Croatian is far easier to understand in a number of ways. So first of all, there are no silent letters. Everything just like every word you see is pronounced exactly as it is written. You just pronounce each letter, and that is how you pronounce the word. There's no weird tricks or anything. There are only 3 tenses: past, present, and future. There's none of these 12 fucking tenses of English, and despite the fact that I am a certified teaching English as a foreign language teacher, I still don't feel like I've got the mastery of what all of those are. Should I ever get to the point where I am actively teaching, I'm really, really going to need to work on that. How many of y'all out there know what, future continuous is, and present perfect, and if you do, go ahead and make fun of me in the comments. It's fine. I don't care. Yeah. So yeah. Yeah. So things that have been hard. So yeah, what I was kind of saying on the reason why I had brought up the dark history is that there are some elements within the society that are, supporters of the right, just like there are in the United States. Right now, there is a center-left coalition government, so they are not in power, but there are certain public figures who are sympathetic and who have used like old Ustazi slogans and symbols, and that is very ugly. That is, that's definitely scary. Ustazi were so bad that they even freaked out the Nazis. Yeah, we had the worst death camp here. It's a terrible, terrible part of this history. But this is also where Antifa developed, and in time, this same nation, along with folks who were part of the former Yugoslavia, so Slovenes and Serbians, banded together and kicked the fucking Nazis right the fuck out of our country. And that is something I am very proud of about our history. I think it is so fucking cool that one of the most important national holidays is the day of anti-fascist action. So so Donald Trump, come over here and get us. Yeah. Antifa is real. Now, in the United States, and you know, I actively looked for folks to partner with in anti-fascist activity. My, you know, having a background in anarchist activism and things like that, you know, I of course, you know, like sign me up. Let me, you know, let me help. And as near as I could really find, it's just very, very isolated pockets of well-meaning kids for the most part. No, they are not an organization. They are fucking certainly not a terrorist group. And yeah, it is the old, you know, classic right-wing authoritarian play of inventing an enemy and demonizing that enemy, and then claiming to protect people, you know, from that enemy by, you know, going around and repressing the people it doesn't like. So yeah, you know, we see you, we're on to you, we know what's going on. um, I wish more Americans did, although I am happy to see that there is more of consciousness than I expected. Um, and there's more than I think that we should have rightfully expected. Um, I've said for years that Americans are the most propagandized people on the planet. I absolutely 100% stand by that. We are so steeped in it in America, we don't realize it. It's like a fish in water. It begins in our education, how we're taught American exceptionalism, and we're taught certain ideas and certain views of history. And, you know, and I'm not just talking about, you know, leaving out, you know, Native people's history or the perspectives, you know, that DEI attempted to try to address, um, which of course is also a conscious decision and you know, part of the indoctrination of Americans. But yeah, so much of our culture has been designed by people with power, with money and power, who have the ability to control the means of communication, the publishing, the book publishing, the textbook publishing, the curriculums, what you hear on the news, all of those things are designed. I know, you know, you want to, oh, that sounds paranoid, blah, blah, blah. No, I'm afraid it's actually not. It really is not. It really is being done on purpose to control us. And what we're seeing now with the Trump administration is just them being a lot more naked about it. But it's been going on all along. And yes, the Democrats are just as fucking complicit. 100%. They are not an alternative. They are not an answer. They are 100% just as fucking complicit. Guess who deported more people than Trump? That would be Obama and also Biden. Yeah. You know, guess who was responsible for, you know, mass incarceration? That would be the Clintons. You know, like, they use our values, our well-meaning, against us to present themselves as if they are an alternative, when in fact all they are is just also, you know, propping up the system. They are also by design a packaged alternative for us, a safe one, so that you feel like you have a choice. Just like, you know, you feel like you have choices in so many other places. I'll give you an example of how insidious this is. So you know the phrase cooking with gas. Now we're cooking with gas, right? You know, like, do you know that we actually know exactly when and where that expression came into use? And the reason why we know that is because it was purposely created by advertisers, public relations people, working for the gas industry, who embedded it in places in our culture So see what I mean? Like it was a fucking commercial, and it changed the way that we thought and talked and associated cooking, better cooking. It's a gas stove is better, blah blah blah. That is how insidious it is, and that is how pervasive it is. I want you to think about that. I really want you to think about that. I thought it was going to take a few months to, kind of unravel and to, see just how much that system was working on me, and it did not. I mean, honestly, the difference was so stark that within days I was like, oh my god, my 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 mental landscape is so different. um yeah. And I hope that each of you has the opportunity to experience that at some time in your life. And I hope at some point all of us, all Americans, have the opportunity to experience that, because we've torn that fucking down and stopped that bullshit. But, we'll see what happens as the future goes forward. So, yeah, of course. And I couldn't help but get political. So, anywho, this is my first video. I do want to say that, just before I came here, I went and visited my hometown. I saw a lot of friends that I hadn't seen in years and years and years. Some, in fact, I don't think I'd seen since the very first time I left. And I just want to really stress how wonderful that was, how it was just so heartening to see and to understand that these were the folks who helped shape me and who I am and the attitudes that I have, and that they too still cared and were still kind. And none of them had fallen into that Gen X MAGA bullshit that apparently is out there. And it was so wonderful to see and to experience. And I want to thank all of you. I'm going to try not to name people specifically on this channel unless I've talked to you first and gotten your permission. And even then it might just be for certain specific conversations or something like that. But you know who you are. And yeah, I really want to thank you for coming out and seeing me and spending a little time with me before I left to come over here, because I honestly don't know when or even if I'll go back. Things are changing fast all the time. And I'm not wealthy. I live off of about $2,000 a month. That is all I have. And my company pays me salary. Someday that salary will be higher than that. Hopefully we will grow. And these videos and some travel writing and some travel blogging and things that I'm going to be doing are all parts of that strategy, as well as some other things that are in development. But yeah, right now, that's what we're able to afford and scrape by, and that is what I live off of. And the reason why I share that is because I know that I thought for years it was not possible for me to leave the United States. I didn't think that I could afford to travel, much less, actually go and live somewhere else. And, I know there's so many freaking YouTubers out there that are spinning all sorts of bullshit, that are trying to sell you, their courses, their newsletters, their this and their that and the other thing. And yes, to make my living, I'm gonna do some of that. I apologize in advance. I have to eat too. And since I lost my job at the age of 54, I am, not an attractive candidate. So I had to come up with another way to to try to make a living. And you know, I'm too weird and I'm too independent, and I knew that, you know, ultimately working for someone else was probably not going to work well anyway. And so I have been investing my time and energy in learning, you know, how to go into business for myself. And I've always wanted to write, and I haven't done nearly as much of it as I wanted to. And so, you know, I decided to kind of build it around that, and around my creativity, and accept my identity as an artist, which is still really weird for me to say. I feel so egotistical saying that, but writers and philosophers are also artists. And I do consider most of what I am doing these days to be philosophy. I think a lot about the nature of things, about the nature of the world, the nature of reality, about how human life could be organized and perhaps should be organized, and what the implications of that are, and a lot about what the changes that the coming collapse of capitalism is going to bring about, and how we are going to have to reorganize this world along very different principles. And I want to try to help encourage and push forward conversations about that, so that when it happens, and it will happen, you know, perhaps that transition can be as, you know, minimally painful as possible. Yeah, yeah. Anywho, I also, you know, my friends in Colorado, some of you I had the chance to you know, to touch base with before I left, and you know, that also was really, really nice, and really meant a lot to me. You know, the last 4 years, 5 years, I had gotten to the point where I was agoraphobic. I basically didn't leave the house. I really went through a lot, but it, you know, it left a lot of scars, physical and mental and spiritual and emotional. And during that time, you know, I felt very ashamed of myself, and I felt very discouraged by the damage it had done to my body. And so I just became less and less inclined to go out or to see my friends. I didn't want to trouble you. It wasn't that I loved you any less. Um, it was that I didn't want to trouble you. You know, like, who wants to be around this bummer who's having such a hard time? Like, and I didn't have the energy to fake it. I couldn't. And so it was either I drag myself out and I'm barely there, and I'm clearly in pain and uncomfortable, and, you know, you're going to feel obligated to talk to me about it or to offer help. And, you know, and so that doesn't feel good, you know. And I'm already feeling such shame and, you know, anxiety and things that, you know, like, it just was a vicious cycle. And since that time, and I've been doing a lot of healing. And, you know, honestly, although it was shitty the way that it came about, and illegal, by the way, I see you, city and county of Denver. um, one of the best things that ever happened to me was losing that job. That was a huge part of my misery, and I felt so trapped. And I'm gonna talk some about that in some other videos and things. And, you know, this is already way too long. I'm already rambling about so many, you know, different things. But at the same time, I was like, you know, what is it that I really regret? And I regretted the risks I didn't take. I, yeah, I regretted not telling people I loved them every chance I could. Um, and that was what I had originally set out to prove when I was young. And I lived very earnestly that way. I truly lived in an alternative way. And, you know, I felt that my life was my work of art, honestly. And that was my intention. And I got off that and I fell into the ambition trap, and all of that. Again, I'll talk about that. But yeah, none of that was important when I thought I was going to die. You know, what was important, you know, were, you know, gosh, I wanted to go see that thing. I wanted to learn this thing. I wanted, you know, like, and so, you know, I realized that the thing to be afraid of was not what I might lose, not the comforts that I might lose by stepping out and taking a risk and not just sticking with that job, or, you know, not just doing the same thing day after day because I didn't know what might happen if I tried to do something else. Um, that what was far, far scarier is that I would never do those things that I truly wished and wanted to do. And, you know, at our core, that is, you know, when people are dying, it's not like I'm the first person to have this kind of revelation by any means. You know, when you talk, you know, they've done all sorts of research and interviews, and this is all what people say, you know, and I've just decided to listen finally. You know, and I've decided to never fucking do anything I don't want to do ever again, because life really, really is too short. It really, really is. And it seems like, you know, you'll get to it, but unless you put it out there and you take that chance and you go for it, chances are no, you're probably not going to get to it, and that's the reality. So get to it. And so that's why I'm sharing the major change that I have been able to make in my life. And, you know, I 6 months ago I couldn't walk a half block down the street. Now I walk everywhere. I walk miles a day. Um, you know, like I didn't know if that would ever happen again. You know, like, there is so much more that we are capable of when we believe it. And so I just want to encourage people in that. And so that's why I'm sharing as much as I share, to let you know that, like, hey, I'm not special. I'm not different than you. I'm certainly not better than you. I certainly have not made better choices. It's just, it is really, really just a mental shift. And you when you step through the door, as the author Goethe said, boldness has genius. You know, when you step forward, things that you hadn't imagined open up to you, but those possibilities will never be there until you step forward towards them. And I'm, you know, I'm going to talk a lot about, you know, a lot of what I saw and in many cases fell for about the YouTube bullshit, the many different, you know, things that people try to sell you. And I'll share what I found to be, you know, of some value. And I really want to share a lot of different creators with you, because I think there are voices that, especially people who are in my demographic and in my age group, maybe don't always get exposed to, and who I think are incredibly thought provoking, and who I have learned and am learning a lot from. And so that's one of the other things I plan to do on here. I hope we have a conversation. I hope, you know, you tell me, you know, ask me questions. I hope you tell me about your experiences. And I hope we can learn and grow and, hopefully even thrive together. So, yeah, anyway, um, I love you. I want to make sure I say that. And I mean it. I do. I do. So, um, I'll sign off for now. And thank you for letting me fucking babble at you for 40 minutes if you actually sat through this whole thing. And hopefully, I do actually have, like scripts and things. Things will definitely be a little bit more focused, a little more polished, a little more directed for the most part. I'll still do, kind of vlog entries and things as well. Um, and there are some interesting things coming up that yeah, I think you might enjoy. And yeah, I'm following Tony Bourdain. Um, yeah. Um, it's too bad that his depression and his darkness in the end overcame him. Um, I so far have managed to crawl out of mine, and I'm incredibly grateful for that. um, I sure hope that I keep it up, and I want to, share that journey and hope that you can help encourage me and I can help encourage you. And, perhaps together we can, lessen a little bit of the suffering that exists on this earth. So, yeah, be well.